an update, what's going on.
Hi everybody, how are you today? I'd like to introduce myself. I'm gonna skip crime. I'm just gonna introduce your new footbeat officer for the area, John Bovary, and he's part of the new Newton Outreach.
Hey, welcome.
I'm John Bovary, yes. And I've been at Newton for 16 years. I'm well aware that the mayor, the city, the nation has a homeless problem. So working with Mark, working on slows. This is basically my first 4 weeks of doing it right now. And I'll be meeting everybody, trying to get everybody's names in my business card notebook here. But with all my entities and resources I'm trying to get a hold of, trying to do it, trying to combat the homeless problem in your division. So hopefully we'll all work together and do our best to come up with a solution, and hopefully we'll take care of the problem.
Welcome. Glad to have you. Good luck. As we tell everyone who starts new, and those who don't, if you need our help in some particular way, you need to ask. Okay? We see this as a partnership, and
Yes.
you have your role, and where we can help you accomplish your goals, we're certainly interested.
Appreciate it.
And John, it's going to be Ed and Fred down there. They're our directors
You've
of
met Fred.
operations.
I've met Fred,
You
yes.
have, okay.
John, you, on your business card, does it have a contact number there?
I have my contact number and email address.
Okay, can you leave a little bit first?
You bet.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for bringing it in.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, we've got a presentation about Alameda Square, so
Good morning, everyone. I'm Noelle Fleming. I'm an attorney at Minor Law. I'm the student representative for this project. You guys are probably best acquainted with the project of Alameda Square, which is about a 32-acre parcel at the southwest corner of 7th and Alameda Streets. The property does extend to the west all the way to Central Avenue. You may have read some of the blog posts that have been out there on Current LA or Eater LA about some of the concepts we have for the property. We will be rebranding the project as Road ETLA. That's the name of the project that the ownership has decided to use going forward. But just wanted to let you know it's also Alameda Square in case you identify with that more closely. So just a quick overview of what I'll be presenting to you today. And by the way, we do have Peyton McElroy, who's a representative of Atlas Capital Group here today. We also have two folks that are helping us with media and community outreach. First, who is Atlas Capital Group? Atlas Capital Group is a real estate investment company based in New York. They have recently entered the Los Angeles market, mostly with the acquisition of the Evoque portfolio as Evoque went through bankruptcy. They have about $2.5 billion in assets in California, New York, and Florida, with about $500 million in Los Angeles. And they see Los Angeles as a strategic investment area for them, definitely looking to be more active in Southern California. You can see from the photos here that the company has focused a lot on adaptive reuse type projects where they're repositioning older buildings with a lot of historic characters as they are being reimagined for the 21st century. So these are just examples from New York, and you'll see this is from LA.
Yes.
They did.
Yeah.
A little bit about their development philosophy. As I mentioned, they do focus a lot on the older buildings that are in unique communities that have a unique character. They really take the attitude of stewardship about the property, really understanding what is the market driving here, what is appropriate for that community, and a lot of attention to community outreach. So we've kind of begun that process now. We've been to the Downtown LA Neighborhood Council last week. Their planning committee voted to support our project. We're going to the business group on the other side of downtown, CCA, next month as well. Some of the design principles that we've taken for the project, a lot of it was about revitalizing this significant property with more modern uses, giving people an opportunity to work there, relax there, shop there. We did provide a lot of attention to landscaping and providing kind of a natural buffer, although not, the public realm, the public right of way, we kind of dedicate a little bit of that treatment toward the interior corridors. The project does include rehabilitating the buildings on the property, there's 7 buildings there. And we are trying to focus on bringing in local vendors as much as possible. You guys, I don't need to tell you where it is, you guys know this area. But a little bit about the property, they wanted to kind of really create a hub that would connect kind of the fashion district with the arts district. So that's kind of the vision is about merging those 2 communities and providing that bridge across this kind of isolated area. The site plan, you guys may or may not be familiar, Central Avenue this way, 7th Street here, Alameda here. These buildings on this side are best known as a produce mart, very active uses Monday through Saturday in the early morning hours. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings and the new parking structure that I'm sure you guys have been watching go up at lightning speed. So that's just a little bit of the site plan. Oh, what I'm going to be talking about today mostly has to do with building B2, B1, building 1, 2, and 3. I'm sure you guys know American Apparel has been occupying the site for a number of years. They're going through bankruptcy and restructuring. They're going to be freeing up building 3 for us. So part of our plans on this presentation will apply to that building. I'm sure you guys know a lot about the campus. It's the home of the historic produce market, which 1% of the produce through our 1% of the produce in the U.S. basically comes through that market. An interesting thing about the property, the historic uses actually included some commercial uses on site. There were banks, hotel, barber shop, restaurants on there already. So it's actually not, what we're going to turn into isn't really out of line with the initial vision. You'll see here, this is the produce market space. It's quite busy here. So an overview of our project. Our intent was to really create a place that could serve the community and be a gathering place for entertaining, shopping, dining. We'll be introducing more than 15 restaurants or cafes into the property, including a gym and fitness center. There'll be plenty of creative office space for the new emerging tech and media companies wanting to get into downtown. It'll be interspersed throughout with ground floor shops and retail, and we'll have multi-purpose event spaces. One thing that I do want to mention is that although kind of a permanent tenanting plan won't be in place for several months, we will be kind of piloting a new concept on Sundays in this parking lot here that we're calling a local showcase with vendors and restaurants. It was kind of featured on Eater LA. We have a concept out of New York run by a company that's done the Brooklyn Flea Market in Schmorgasburg, and they'll be taking like a flea market food concept with some live entertainment that will start probably in June. And hopefully we can use that to attract some potential tenants.
And that's just going to be on Sundays?
Yes.
How long you guys are they gonna feature that for?
The idea right now is to have them start in June and see what the response is. We just don't know how the market will respond. And we hope that it'll be a good way of bringing people that could be potentially interested in occupying permanent tenant space. If it goes well, we may think about making it a permanent fixture. If we decided to make it permanent, we'd have to come back for separate approvals for that. But because it's just a special event, we're not asking for a permanent entitlement.
Right.
And then of course you guys know about the garage, which has over 4,000 parking spaces. So some renderings of the concept. We did a lot of emphasis in art. Obviously, it's really important to be a community in this area, so you'll see murals and artwork throughout. A lot of emphasis on landscaping, kind of creating these opportunities for people to sit and gather together. Here's a different view. This is kind of looking across the main axis north toward, 7th Street. A little bit about the Market Hall concept. We're taking the concept of like a food court kind of to the next level. So Market Hall is gonna be a space where there will be one operator kind of curating the different vendors throughout, and then we'll have different food vendors, but there'll be one purveyor of alcohol and beverages. Different view. This gets more into kind of what we're doing with the creative office space. And then the parking structure, which of course we've incorporated like a ribbon wall. The parking structure will have ground floor retail to kind of provide some continuity with the other buildings. And then this mural, which is in progress on 7th Street by Retna. So entitlements. The reason I'm here today is to ask for board support of the project. We submitted for entitlements in November. What we're asking for right now is for a master conditional use permit to allow alcohol and live entertainment in the project. It's going to include 19 licenses. 16 of them are for bona fide eating establishments, which are restaurants, cafes, that kind of thing. And then we'll have 2 kind of flex spaces. We're hoping to get a brewery concept in. We don't know yet, so that space is kind of brewery or maybe an event space, and then another space also that maybe restaurant, might be an event space, we don't quite know yet. And then of course the market hall that I talked about. And then 5 of the 19 spaces would have some form of live entertainment or dancing potentially. And then we're also asking for zone variance for outdoor eating above the ground floor. There is a quirk in the zoning code in LA where if you're doing outdoor eating above the ground floor, you need to ask for zone variance. Apparently they don't want you to enjoy the LA weather here. And then, as I mentioned before, we're doing special event permits. We don't need an actual entitlement for that, but I just did want to call that out here. A little bit about the local showcase. It's going to be coming in June. It's going to be operated by Brooklyn Flea. They are operating Brooklyn Flea and Schmorgasburg in New York. Their markets attract thousands of attendees from across the region there. And it's going to be centered around about 100 plus local vendors and small businesses selling food, handmade goods, vintage items, and then some live entertainment and music. And then a little bit about safety. I know with 19 alcohol licenses, they're probably concerned about drinking and safety. I think this site is unique because we're really a self-contained campus. So it's a little different than being kind of in the heart of downtown where your doors open right onto the street. We do have campus security. They're trained to deal with crisis situations that happen on site. They're on site 24 hours a day. And we will be writing into the leases some clauses to ensure that tenants comply with hours and noise restrictions and things like that. A lot more of the details on how the individual establishments will be regulated will of course be written by the city and incorporated into their individual plan approvals. But I just wanted to touch on this a little bit since we are pursuing a master. A little bit about the timeline. The parking garage started construction last year. We started our entitlement process last year. We're going through community outreach now for the first part of this year. We hope to hit a public hearing through the planning department probably middle of this year. Hoping to expedite that as much as possible, but you just never know. We are working with brokers to attract tenants to the site and hope to have our leasing wrapped up by the end of this year. And then, of course, tenant improvements are coming throughout. And contacts, I'm Noel Fleming. We have Peyton here as well to answer any questions you have. If you want to reach me.
Oh, just real quick, is there any residential component whatsoever?
Not at this time. What you see here is what the plans we have for the property. There are portions of the site that I know the ownership's been tossing ideas out, but nothing's been green lighted. So for right now, we're gonna be sticking with what the zoning allows, which is, job creating uses.
And American Apparel using the one building, that's still in the plan for right now.
Yeah, I think, we amended the lease with them about the middle of last year when they made their last announcement about their bankruptcy and restructuring plan. So they're vacating building 3 and then consolidating into building 4. Obviously, they're moving forward in their bankruptcy process, so I really can't tell you what's going to happen. But what I know for right now is that they're still gonna be occupying that one building.
And how many total square feet for commercial is available?
2 million plus.
Noel, you mentioned that the brokers are working with potential vendors to lease space. Is there a lot of interest for the campus?
Yeah, I mean, I think Peyton can speak a little bit more about that. I mean, we have 2 different brokerage companies on board. We're working with industry to attract the office side, the creative office, and Runyon Group on the retail side. They're a little different than traditional brokers because they're more like a curator. So they look at the property and then come up with what tenants would be would make sense in a synergistic way. So their approach to the property has been, you know, creating different concepts for different buildings, and maybe this building's more boutique, or maybe this building's more food-oriented, things like that. But I think there's good interest. I still think it's early. So yeah.
Any other questions for? All right, so, you good after.
I have one question. You said there were 5 licenses to include for dancing. Are you envisioning nightclubs?
It's like live entertainment / dancing. So the quirk in Los Angeles, if you're doing music, like amplified music, you need a live entertainment license. So even like cabarets and music, especially entertainment. So I can't tell you like, oh, we're gonna have. I don't think the concept we're going for is not really nightclubs, but we need to include it in the master. He's not the decision maker on this project, it's our client. So I think we're going more towards the high end, so you know, we're not really thinking it's gonna be a nightclub heavy complex, but when you're doing a master CUP, you wanna create the most flexibility to attract the tenant. So for example, we run a brewery, they may wanna have some kind of live entertainment, they may wanna bring in a band from time to time. That requires getting a live entertainment.
But by giving our approval, we're giving approval for you to have that flexibility and for 5 members that if you up to me right.
Yeah, if you guys decide to support the request, then we will be supporting the master, which could
Potentially have 5 members.
I can say, this isn't speculation, it'll be close to 0 nightclubs, not 5. It's the nightclub count, don't confuse it, that's not what we're after. We've had very long, specific conversations with a brewery out of San Diego. They have a live music and entertainment component to what they do, particularly on the weekends, so it's giving ourselves the flexibility to bring in a tenant like that. It's not gonna be Hollywood or anything like that, so if that helps, you know, put that to rest, hopefully. Hope it gives you some comfort at the least. So,
I have a question. I think it's a great project, by the way. This is just more curiosity. What is the inspiration for the graphics? I've been watching you guys paint it.
Mm-hmm. So it's a gentleman that keeps a studio across the alleyway from Bestia. He has, this is not my part of the world, I'm certainly not a creative guy, but he essentially has what I like to think of as his own little alphabet. So he did the album cover for Justin Bieber recently. He does these art pieces that you and I may never be able to translate exactly what they say, but in his mind it says something, and it may be ironic, it may be snarky. For all I know, it says, you know, real estate guys are destroying the world on the side of the building.
So you have no idea what you're building?
I think we have somewhere, whether we would disclose it publicly or not, I think we have some sense of what he's putting up there.
Just curious, I've been watching it.
Sure.
It's interesting.
I'd like to just effort to move things along. It does sound like a great program. You're really doing some creative things, and I like sort of all the different concepts that you're bringing together. So in that light, I would recommend that this board agrees, supports, thank you, that's the word I was looking for, supports the proposal as presented.
Second.
Got that motion on the table, seconded, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
There you go.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Long overdue.
Right.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Thanks, Kate. I'll open the letter.
I'll leave some cards, in case you guys have follow-up questions.
Excuse me, that's okay. You got your approval, all right, you do? No, it's a great project.
Actually, we ended the year on a positive note. You know, we were somewhat tracking that would break even at the end of the year. We really weren't sure we would actually get to break even with some of the costs that we were incurring, but we had some founding money arrive in November. General benefit income from the city as a result of the lawsuit against the Arts District a few years ago. It was found that the city itself derived some sort of benefit from the bid services, and we don't, right? That's
Some sort.
right, exactly, and we can't budget for this. We don't know if we'll get it each year. We didn't know we would get it in 2015, but in November we got a check for $33,000. We had no idea why we were receiving it, and we did a little bit of research and found out exactly why we were receiving it, and it's the general benefit money from the city. So that was very nice. Another thing that happened to us that we were tracking throughout the year that is also very positive, our delinquent assessments were 1%, $20,000, which is great. We budgeted for 4% as a delinquency contingency, if you will. So we collected, which was $80,000. And we collected $60,000 more than we anticipated collecting.
In this market, no, it's gonna let the property go.
Right. Good point, good point. Everybody can.
That's a safe bet.
That's good. So we had some nice positive things happening. As we all know, there were some significant costs that we had to absorb as well throughout the year, but we were able to absorb them through reduced amount of delinquencies and additional general benefit money. So we ended the year with $80,000 in the bank. However, we did still have some payables that were due, and we still have a few that are trickling in. After all of the payables, which are about $44,000 right now, we end up with a surplus of $38,000 a year for 2015, first year of the bid, which is nice, really nice. And I really do have to say that Raquel and her team are really, really good with their budgets. They're great. I mean, you guys are on top of it. And it's great to see it, and it makes this all manageable, because it was a little bit of a tricky year and we weren't sure where we'd end up, but we ended up in a good place. Very good at it, very good at it.
Questions for Ken, anything else? Wonderful. All right, we are going to move on to our final ACOM study that was done, so Greg, you're up.
I am your government relations update. I'm not as pretty as the person that usually gives it, but she wasn't able to be here. I'm actually here for two purposes. Many of you have probably seen the Central City East Association's Central City East Planning Study, which completed in November of 2015, done by AECOM. I was a sub-consultant on the project. Why was this done? This was done largely because Estella and I ended up in a big argument one day about an issue that she felt Central City East didn't get enough coverage on. And we argued ourselves into actually saying we need to do a study. And there has not been an economic development study of this area done in a long time. And so this was the genesis for getting it done. The funding was provided largely by you people, and then also we leaned on former Councilwoman Perry to give some money out of the Economic and Workforce Development Department's budget, which she was happy to help us with. Why did we do this? We did this for a couple of reasons. One, Central City East is an area that's largely unknown to the planning department in any detail. And they are doing updates of their community plans. Central City Community Plan and Central City North, which basically covers, we'll say for all practical purposes, most of what we would call downtown, and it also goes up into Chinatown and sort of the foot of the Legion Park. These community plans have to be updated periodically by law as part of the general plan, which is filed with the state of California. There's a lot of going off into the weeds to give you details on this you don't want, and I'm not going to bore you with them, but the Department of City Planning is very interested in this document because this gives them a base to go forward in planning how this area will play out over a period of time. There's a new director of city planning. Vince Bertoni is taking the place of Michael LeGrand. Michael is leaving. Vince was an assistant general manager of the department, and he is coming back, reinvented from the head of planning in Pasadena to become our head of planning. He's kind of a big picture guy. We think that this particular study will appeal to him a great deal in moving forward. The Downtown News is going to do a story on this sooner than later. The text is probably all written. We're just waiting, I think, for a rewrite. And then Estella and I will see that this particular study goes to the Downtown Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Planning and Land Use Committee for their review because we think it makes a critical and compelling argument that this area needs to be considered as part of the planning's update going forward. I have a full 25, 30-page document here if anybody wants to see it. If you haven't seen it and you'd like a copy, let Cal know. I'll see that you get one. I believe you've all gotten it electronically.
Yeah, you all have it.
Okay, good. The other reason I'm here is to show you this project, which some of you are aware of. I know we presented it to Ernie Doizaki. This is a 4-building complex on East 5th Street, a block west of Central, that was originally a series of hotels acquired in the 1950s by Salvation Army and became their Harbor Light complex. Been vacant for a number of years. A developer purchased them 3 years ago and is proposing to put in an interesting project. 3 of the buildings would be devoted to market rate micro-lofts, 132 units. And a 4th building across the street, which had been originally the Women's Detox Center, will be set aside for 28 units of veterans housing. And this will all be over first floor retail. These buildings are basically then being brought back to life as they were originally intended, which was housing over retail. And it will add a nice component through the adaptive reuse process of putting back into circulation buildings that have been vacant and actually bring some housing into an area that has some challenges, largely because of the M zone. If you had another zone in this area, it would be a lot easier to work with, but M is tough, and only through the adaptive reuse ordinance are we able to add housing back in here. You cannot build from scratch housing. So,
Excuse me, when you say adaptive reuse to the side of San Pedro?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The adaptive reuse ordinance, does that work if you go east of San Pedro?
It is not geographically limited. Originally, it was limited to downtown. It's long story short, it's basically gone everywhere. So you can do it, period. So we're planning to add back eyes on the street on a block and a half, where currently there's one building, which is the Edward Hotel, which is a Skid Row Housing Trust building, and kind of reactivate an area that's been sort of dead on a fringe. We think it should be a compelling and interesting project. We're a block away from Little Tokyo Galleria. We have a lot of millennials who are interested in being downtown at a price point that they can afford, which these micro units will actually provide. And as one of the people on our team says, this is for the BMW crowd: bike, metro, walk. So this is going to be a group that's kind of edgy, kind of fun. Should be an interesting project. Glad to answer any questions you might have about it. I've got a whole bunch of boards if anybody wants to see them.
Yeah. So where are you in the process right now?
Well, we wish we knew.
Oh, okay.
We're in the process of getting entitlements. We are fairly well through the process of going to hearing, except that now planning has decided that they would like a traffic study. And the traffic study would put us back a period, I would guess, of 90 days. We're trying to say, because one of the traffic consultants said so, adaptive reuse projects don't do these. So we're trying to get the council office to go along with that and see if they can't find some way to make this work without the traffic study. You have a brand new light at Central and Fifth. You can park on these streets at any hour of any day.
Right.
There's a whole series of reasons why we shouldn't have to do it. But planning has the option of asking for it because we're in an environmental assessment form state, and it's in there. We're just trying to get them to not necessarily waive it, but see that there's not really a lot of reason to do it. There's no level of service issue on East Fifth Street. What we're trying to do is make them say, if you're going to make us do this, there's got to be a reason other than checking a box. Because it's very expensive and very time consuming to do. It just puts us off another 90 days in what's becoming an increasingly difficult market. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, happy to go to play.
Thanks,
questions?
Greg.
No, we've been supportive and.
No. Good
I'd like you to get going with it.
Get going, yeah.
We would love to hear that from the city planning department. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Greg. All right, Ed.
This year, we're looking at cost savings. We're looking at trying to see if there's a method of saving cost without impacting operations. So we're looking at different schedulings, and that process is in place currently as we speak. And we'll give you a further update on the board meetings. But in essence, it's going back to trying to save as much in the light of the current conditions of expenditures.
How is the tenant street? I just saw the study that violent crime is up and things like that. And I know there's been issues with our people on the street with the homeless population.
We have, yes, crime stats in Central that impact the day. Crimes are up on property crimes as well as violent crimes. We've changed our operation just slightly. We used to have different protocols where we had one officer working in a certain area. We've changed that. We put 2 officers just in light of safety. Our operation hasn't changed. We just changed personnel deployment to satisfy that condition. One time we had an officer that was working with a pair that got blindsided and got hit from the side from the people that he had generally worked with. We've changed those protocols to ensure that they work more closely together and not engage in trust factor. It's more caution as opposed to trust. We gain everything in terms of progress by way of cooperation, and we don't want to lose that, but we also have to err on the side of safety. So to answer your question, all we've done is added more personnel in the hours that we need them, and we've taken personnel away from the hours that we don't need them. In terms of calls for service are less, people are more bedding down, and there's less need for personnel in those hours. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we've just changed things around and make the operation more safe, more operational, as well as now looking at saving costs.
And we're working on some strategies. In 2015, our maintenance numbers are through the roof. I mean, every category increased. So we're working on some strategies that we think will definitely save us some money. So we'll report at the next meeting.
As well as not impacting performance.
Exactly.
Our bread and butter is pretty much
Right.
the safe and clean, and as well as safety and maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
due to a couple of board members having to leave, we're going to adjourn and go into executive session at this point. We'll do that first. Okay, let's do that.